Hey guys, so today I'm going to be teaching you how to review your own VODs in Valorant. This is something that has been requested pretty frequently to me over the past few weeks or so. And obviously as a Valorant coach myself, I have quite a bit of insight into kind of like how you can review your own VODs and just how I review VODs for other people. So I'm going to go ahead and begin with the first tip, which is focus on both good and bad things and understand why they are good or bad in your VOD. Also, by the way, for your own VOD, you should have a VOD in which you're performing just about average, so like a KD that's just about even, about 15 to 16 or 16 to 15, something like that, for example. So what you want to do is look for things that you do both good and bad. Good things will be considered things that are pushing your team toward victory. So like, you know, during a round, if you clutch a round or something, try to think what did you do good there and try to replicate that in the future, right? And try to think what else could I have even done better here? Or did I do anything, is there anything during this good play that I could have done better? Also, look for bad things. So bad things are, you know, did you lose the round like single-handedly or close to single-handedly in any rounds for your team? And if you did, what could you have done better to not throw the round like that? And obviously, you don't really need to be upset at yourself. Just kind of think, what could I have done better? How can I approach this sort of round in the future? Because more than likely, you will have a round like this in the future. And, you know, this is pretty much the first tip that I mean, this is what I do to every single person that I coach. Like, I'm just thinking, okay, what could they do better? Are they doing something good? Or are they doing something bad? And I compliment them, or I tell them that this is bad and they should try to change it for the future. And that's what you should do with yourself. So tip number 2 is realize what you could do better in the scenarios where you make mistakes or misplays. So I kind of just said that. Again, you know, just to reiterate, make sure that whenever you make obvious or blatant mistakes, looking back on certain things, it should be easier for you to understand that you're making mistakes. Whereas when you're actually playing, it might be harder for you to realize if it's a good or bad thing. This might be easier or harder for certain people, but really try to think like, what else could I be doing differently here? Like, what are my other options? And this kind of ties into the next tip, which is be open to new opportunities that you otherwise wouldn't normally consider. So for example, I'll go ahead and play this clip from this video. This is the last person I coached. He's a bronze jett player who definitely struggled with confidence, and he played pretty passive. So this is what I tell him right here. I want to see some confidence from you, even though it might be a little hard. So I'd like to see you be one of the first ones in this run on your team.
Alright, the Reyna actually might be peeking this again.
Let's go. There we go. Okay, so pretty short clip, but you see I call him out and tell him that his confidence seems low, and he agrees with me that normally his confidence is somewhat low. And pretty much, I tell him that he should play more aggressive and not be scared to play more aggressive. I tell him that if he dies from playing aggressive, then that's okay. We all make mistakes. And you see, he goes in first. He gets a kill. And I believe he might actually get another kill here, but I'm going to pause it there. So pretty much, guys, this ties into this tip because normally if I wasn't in this guy's ear here, he would have probably still been playing quite passive, quite scared. Whenever you're VOD reviewing yourself, think, what could I do better here? Like, am I playing too passive? Am I playing too aggressive? Should I be rotating? Should I flank? Should I be playing time? Should I be playing safe on the site? Should I push? You know, stuff like that. Like, what could I do better? Should I use my abilities? Etc. So next tip is look for patterns in the way you play on both attack and defense. So obviously this is going to differ to some extent depending on what your role is, because on attack you're going to be looking for patterns in, you know, how you attack as a duelist versus if you're a sentinel, you're not going to be playing as aggressive on attack. But just in general, for example, this guy, again, I noticed that a big pattern in his gameplay was that he's playing quite passive. And that's a pretty big thing as a duelist that you want to be focusing on. And similarly, how if you're a sentinel on defense and you're playing very aggressive, that's probably something that's a pattern you're going to want to kind of think about changing, because a sentinel should generally be playing farther back on site to try to anchor on most rounds anyway, and like full buy rounds and stuff like that. So yeah, look for patterns that are, you know, that you could be improving or changing to benefit yourself. And this ties into the next step, which is break old habits and form better and more beneficial ones. So again, we're pretty much just looking for things that that we've been doing for a while that we kind of just do without really even thinking. It's kind of like autopiloting. Again, for this guy, it would be passive. Another example of this might be not using your ult consistently. So like you might not notice that you're doing this in the game, but whenever you actually VOD review, you notice that you have your ult for like 5 rounds in a row without using it. And then you realize, okay, maybe I could just use it on the first round, and even if it's a waste, I'll get it like 2 more times in this half. And that's a really good thing to kind of notice. Another thing might be ability usage and like different ways you can use your abilities. So if you're currently only using your abilities to, say you're only using dash to go into sight, Now you can use dash to take more aggressive fights and to save yourself. So these are examples of finding old habits and breaking them. There are an endless number of examples of this tip, obviously, because all agents, you can think of all abilities, all maps, and pretty much everything. And this is why you can review VODs on different maps as well. But yeah, lastly, I wanted to say that whenever you're doing VOD reviews, try not to blame your teammates. Don't make excuses. The point of VOD reviewing is strictly to understand your mistakes and what you could be doing better. And this pretty much has nothing to do with your teammates. If you ever think about your teammates, you're essentially wasting your time. If you're ever thinking about blaming your teammates and kind of saying that it's their fault that you're the rank that you are, you're essentially wasting your time. You're pretty much the only thing you're pretty much the only thing you can control to rank up in your games. So that's the only thing you should be focusing on, and that's really what VOD reviewing is kind of looking at. Obviously, teammates can have an integral impact on how you choose to play the game. So for example, if your breach flashes, you're going to push in. But for the mental aspect and for kind of like blaming people, make sure that, that's all out of our system here. And yeah, hopefully you guys found this helpful. Again, just to reiterate a little bit, focus on both good and bad things. Look for patterns. Be open to new opportunities that you otherwise wouldn't consider. And break old habits and form new, more beneficial ones. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.